It's intermission time. It's great to get out to the movies.
This is Megan Braun, the host of the Synagogue podcast Intermission, and today we have Flynn Slicker on the podcast. Hi.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad to have you on. You are our second Letterboxd employee that has come on the show, which is cool. We're big Letterboxd fans here.
Thanks.
Can you tell the listener a little bit about what you do with Letterboxd and just who you are, what you're up to, your vibe?
I'm the Letterboxd social media manager, and I've been at the company for 3 years. This is going to be my 4th year. And yeah, I moved to LA about a year ago and have been doing a lot of stuff in LA for Letterboxd, and it's so fun. I just love movies, so it feels like the perfect job.
Oh, so you were remote at Letterboxd before that?
It's all remote because Letterboxd is based out of New Zealand.
Oh, yeah. Okay, because
Yes.
we've had a meeting with someone in New Zealand, so that makes sense now.
Yeah, the only office is in New Zealand.
So you only see people when you're at events?
Yeah. Like I
that's
do
fun.
in-person stuff in LA, and then I lived in New York for a year.
Okay.
And we're doing like red carpets and stuff. But yeah, it's so fun. It's
What a
dream
good
job.
gig.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. This is a question we ask every guest who comes onto the show. If you were to pick a movie that describes your life right now, what would it be?
Oh God. Can I say a TV show?
Yeah.
Well, only because LA, and we're like in the spring going into summer, and I feel like Daisy Jones.
Yeah.
Just kind of like the LA scene, and not that's my life at all, but
Daisy Jones and the Six.
yeah.
Reese Witherspoon's production company, I believe, worked on that.
Yeah.
And that also ties in really well for later when we talk about your film choice, I think.
Yes. I wanted to say that too, but I was like,
Yeah.
I can't say that.
That was a really good show. I'm also a big fan of Suki Waterhouse.
Oh my God.
And it was so cool to see her in that.
She was like perfectly cast.
Yeah.
I think I can't imagine anyone else being her.
I
And
agree.
Riley too.
Yeah.
As Daisy. I think
Yeah.
the whole show was just like amazing.
Yeah, with her being Elvis's granddaughter and then her being in this like music-centric
Yeah.
story. It's really
She has
cool.
a beautiful voice.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So you're the social media manager for Letterboxd, and I have a
Yes.
couple questions. Hopefully you can answer these. They're just like fun scenarios.
Yeah.
If Letterboxd could collaborate with any director or actor for a social media takeover, who would be your dream pick, and what kind of content would you want them to post?
I think Kyle MacLachlan.
Yes.
I think his like TikTok and
so good on the
Instagram
internet.
presence, I think, is so good. And his social media team, whoever they are, do such a good job, like doing all the Brat stuff over summer.
Mm-hmm.
And we really want to get his 4 favorites. So
Yes. That's a perfect answer. He's so with it online.
yeah.
I agree. Has working at Letterboxd influenced your taste in movies or made you appreciate a genre you used to avoid?
I think Letterboxd in general, maybe not working there, but
The app itself.
Yeah, when I started, I discovered like Korean dramas and thrillers and just like the world of Asian cinema, which is like something that I never looked at before having Letterboxd, and just seeing all those movies so highly rated. I was like, I have to check these out. And that just like kind of opened my taste into something that I never thought it could go to.
Yeah. Can you tell me what you currently have as your top 4 on Letterboxd?
Okay.
It's fun to ask people at Letterboxd this.
Yes. And I think it's always funny, like people make fun of celebrities when they do these and they say like, oh, it always changes. This is not my actual top 4, but it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Like your taste is ever evolving. And I think movies that I've watched in the past that I haven't liked as much and then I rewatch them, I think it just like goes with as you get older. So one of them is Phantom Thread. Which, yeah, I watched it in theaters this year, and I was like, that's immediately going to my favorite movie.
What theater was playing it?
The Arrow Theater.
Cool.
American Cinematheque.
I
And it was
remember.
in 70.
Oh, that's fun. I remember watching that in San Francisco at the Kabuki. I'm pretty positive that's where I saw that movie. It's fun to like have such vivid memories of movie watching experiences, and
Yeah.
I had such a good time watching that film.
Did you watch it when it came out?
Yeah.
I didn't watch it in theaters when it came out.
Yeah.
So like watching it, I was like, oh my God, this is a new
Incredible.
experience. Yeah.
Okay, what else do we have?
I think a favorite that'll always be in my top 4 is Uncle Boonmi, Who Can Recall His Past Lives.
I've not seen. Tell me about it.
It's by a Thai director, Apichatpong. I'm going to butcher his last name. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. And yeah, I watched it maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, and I don't even know how to explain like the watching experience. You have to watch it on your laptop when you're like about to fall asleep, and like if you fall asleep to it, it's totally fine. I think that's like part of the experience. That's like with any of his movies. But
Is it like visually relaxing, or what do you mean?
It's just very like meditative. It's about this guy who has liver damage and his like liver is failing. So his family just like kind of comes back to him because he's like in this weird place in his life. And like his wife who had previously died like comes back, and they like take him to this mountain in this cave, and he dies there. That's not a spoiler.
Okay.
Like, you know that's gonna happen. But yeah, it's just like very meditative, and I'm a big hypochondriac, so watching it and just kind of like the experience of him dying and how peaceful it is kind of brings me peace, because that's my worst fear. Just like health stuff and dying, not to get too deep, but yeah, I think it's just very relaxing, and all of his movies are just like so insane and the perfect movie to fall asleep to, and I love movies like that.
Okay, so that was number 2. What else do we have?
Okay, Mamma Mia.
Which that is his favorite as well.
Really? I don't know, I think it's been my favorite since I was a kid, and just like the memories of watching it with my mom. And she's passed away, but Donna is like the character that reminds me of her the most. So every time I watch it, it's like my comfort movie. Every time I watch it, I see my mom. And I just remember watching it in theaters with my mom and my sisters, and it just like brings back a lot of memories. That's and ABBA is amazing.
Yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah, I could listen to the soundtrack.
I was at a bachelorette party maybe 2 years ago, and the girl's mom brought her 2 best friends and surprised the bride, and they did that like dance number, and it was so fun.
Oh, I would cry. Yeah. That's my dream. Yeah. That's like my dream bachelorette party.
It was really cute. Yeah, they got all dressed up and they were so into it. It was great.
Oh my God, I love that.
Okay, and what's number 4?
The 4th one is always like the weirdest, because it just like rotates out. Like those 3 I think are Fallen Angels.
Okay, cool.
Of course.
Yeah.
I love Wong Kar-wai. I think he's like the director of all directors. And Fallen Angels was just my favorite of his when I watched it. I've seen almost all of his features, and I think that one is just so cool. It's like, I don't know, just the style and the people in it are so hot. I think I can just watch it over and over again. It's just a good time.
I agree. Yeah. Great movie. Okay, so, I mean, we're already starting with this with your top 4, but now we're going to go into more general taste movie questions so the listener can get a better feel for Flynn. What kind of movies did you grow up watching, and were you in a movie household, like were everyone cinephiles, or how did you come to love film? Yeah,
I guess like my whole family loved movies, and we weren't like a sports family at all. We would go to the Super Bowl because it was like fun social gathering and not to actually watch the Super Bowl. So movies and TV shows were a thing. Like we grew up watching Modern Family every Wednesday night together and watching all of the Lord of the Rings. And my dad was the president of the National Barbecue Association. So we would go on
That is so sweet.
Yeah. My parents owned a barbecue restaurant. So we would go on like cross-country road trips to barbecue conventions. And we had a portable DVD player, and we would just watch. It's like 3-day drive across the country. So we would watch movies over and over and over again.
That seems like a plot to a movie.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Like RV or something.
Yeah.
But Lord of the Rings was the one that we would watch over and over because we could watch all 3 and then like in the beginning of the morning. Yeah. And then by the time we were done with the day drive, we could have watched all of them. But yeah, I think just my family and my parents like really got me into just like the slapstick comedy, and I just love that genre. And then when I got into high school, I watched Palo Alto, and that was like my first indie movie I watched, and I think it just changed how I saw movies and changed my taste a lot. And I watched like every indie movie out there when I was in high school.
Yeah, Palo Alto, that's a good time to be in high school to watch that movie, because that is such like a coming of age high school story, like a very makes me think of like Perks of Being a Wallflower type of movie.
Yes.
Yeah, that's also that one's based on a book, I believe.
Yeah, by James Franco.
Yeah, by James Franco. Yeah, he's from there. That's funny. I was just looking him up yesterday because I was like kind of curious because obviously he had a little bit of trouble with, like, lawsuits.
Yeah.
And so I was just curious about what he was up to because Dave Franco and his wife, what's her name?
Alison Brie.
Alison Brie. Mm-hmm. Dave Franco and Alison Brie just released the trailer for their new film.
Together.
Yeah.
It looks so good.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to watch
and
it.
And so, anyways, it got me on a train of thoughts. That's funny that you brought up Palo Alto.
Yeah.
I'm from
James
the Bay
Franco?
Area, so Palo Alto is like
so am
around
I.
the corner. You are?
From Walnut Creek.
No way.
Yeah.
I'm from San Jose.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I love people from the Bay Area.
Yeah, that's so fun.
Yeah.
This is what you brought up before. Not saying all the films by directors, but can you just like tell me some directors that you're drawn to and you like their filmography? Also, obviously you said Wong Kar-wai. What other directors come to mind?
Well, Pichapong, I'm not going to say his last name because I don't want to mispronounce. The Thai director, Paul Thomas Anderson, Chantal Ackerman was like a big one for me getting into film, and watching like News from Home was like a turning point for me. I feel like into my taste now. And that's like one of my all-time favorite movies. Who else? I'm so bad with names.
It's okay.
Oh, Jonas Mekas.
Okay.
Jonas, I don't know.
Yeah.
Who makes those experimental films. As I was moving ahead, occasionally I saw brief glimpses of Beauty is the movie. I think it's like 4 hours long, and it's just about him living in New York. And I saw it in a theater, and it just like changed my life.
Were you in New York when you saw it?
Yeah.
That's fun.
It was insane. I had like just moved to New York too. And I was like, this is like my moment.
Which actor's IMDb page could double as your comfort movie playlist? So if you were to just go to one actor's filmography and go through them all.
I think Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
Because Talladega Nights, like we watched that.
That's
my
funny.
most watched movie. And like Step Brothers.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
What else do we have? Well, obviously, most recently he has that documentary, but that's not really like.
I still miss Will and Harper.
Yeah.
I need to watch that.
It's really great. And Netflix.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. What are more Will Ferrell movies? Yeah. You said Step Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
The Talladega Nights is such a funny one. Wait,
It's
now I want to
so
look
good.
up more. I do love him.
The scene at the dinner table when they're like doing the prayer. He's like, bless, I've been slaving over this for hours, and it's just like KFC and pizza and stuff. It's so good.
What's a movie that made you immediately Google, is this based on a true story afterwards? Have you had that experience?
Lake Mungo.
Lake Mungo. Wait, I need to look up.
I think it was made in 2008. It's Australian.
Oh, I think we've actually talked about this on the podcast. Someone brought this to my attention.
It's like I know people don't like the word mockumentary,
Yeah.
but it's a mockumentary made in Australia. It was the only movie that this director made, and then just like
I think that's so
dropped off
badass when people do that.
it's crazy because it's really eerie. It's
Yeah.
like the scariest movie I've ever seen. And the way that it's set up like a documentary, I had to look up, and I was like, is this real?
Yeah.
But,
Like a little bit of a Blair Witch Project
Yeah.
moment. Yeah.
and it has the scariest jump scare in any movie I've ever seen.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm such a baby for jump scares. Like that is truly, I cannot.
So am I.
Yeah.
But I love them.
Yeah.
Like I love the rush, but I need people to tell me when they're coming. If like they're showing me a horror movie, I'm like, can you tell me when the jump scares are coming up?
When I met you was at the Long Legs premiere.
Right.
And I remember that movie, I was so nervous because I just thought there was going to be so many jump scares. And like these two were making fun of me because like my hands, you were, no, you weren't there. It was Shaquille. My hands were like covering my
Same.
face. Like I was just peeking through.
Well, because the first one that they do, when it's like his mouth. And
It's
then
like the first scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God. And Nick Cage was sat right behind me.
Uh-huh.
So I was like, he's like breathing down my neck
That's funny.
as I watched this. But yeah, that was a good one. I
I had a great time. I really liked that movie.
I thought it was scary, but people didn't think it was as scary as maybe
It's a
I thought
certain,
it was.
yeah, it's a certain type of scare, right? Like it's not gonna be your like, it's more of the drawn out, slow build type of eerie feeling of scare. I think.
I think like a movie is scary if I stay up all night thinking about it.
Yeah, yeah.
And like I'm scared to sleep in the dark, and that was one where I went. Well, I did get a little bit drunk after after party.
Fun.
And that was the only way that I could go home alone. And I was like, I'm not going home sober. And like being drunk was the only way that I could sleep that night. So
Okay, which film villain do you think had a point, even if their methods were a little extreme?
oh my God, a villain? Let's think.
You know what came to mind, which is like a children's movie, is Despicable Me. Yeah, Gru himself is kind of, anyways. So Gru was my answer. And like obviously with TV, it's like you have The Sopranos and those kinds of anti-heroes, but any that come to mind for you?
Oh yeah, when you said TV, I think Succession. Obviously Logan Roy is like a horrible father and person and stuff. But there was definitely some moments where I was like, these kids are being little shits. Yeah. And he has a point. Obviously not all the time, but I mean, jumping ahead to Almost Famous, I think the mom had a big point to be.
Oh, that's funny. That's a question I had for you. Okay, yeah.
We could talk about that later, but yeah, I just keep thinking of like Marvel villains, and I.
Are you someone who watches action movies?
Yeah, my dad is like a big action fan, so we watched a lot of action movies growing up. Cool. I've seen like almost all of them. John Wick is like one of my favorite movies. I love
John Wick.
So good.
I'm not the biggest action person. I was just thinking about this because I went to see an action movie this past week. Yeah. And I left it being like, actually don't know if I watched this genre that much. But then I was thinking like, well, yeah, I love John Wick. I was thinking the movie The Town I really like. Like I like a heist movie, and that's action. Is there, I guess this, you kind of answered this. Tell me if this was the same answer as earlier, but is there a movie that perfectly captures your sense of humor, one where every joke lands for you?
Oh my God, what is like the funniest movie?
But it has to be to you, you know? Like, because I thought you were going to say maybe Talladega Nights, but like, is there a movie, for me, it's always going to be like Superbad or 22 Jump Street, like, to me, those are so stupid and funny. Or like Pineapple Express, like that's my humor. Okay,
I feel like I have two and they're very different. So Phantom Thread, I think, is like really funny.
In what way?
I don't know. There's just like certain moments where I think it's like Daniel Day-Lewis's character is just like everything he says, I think is so funny. Maybe like people don't see it that way. Yeah. But when I watched it in the theater, like I had previously thought it was funny and like I thought that people thought it was more serious, and then when I watched it in the theater, people were laughing like almost the whole time. Like how he can't, like, I don't know, as someone with OCD and like I could see those tendencies in him when he's like eating breakfast. I think it's so funny. What was my other one I was gonna say? Oh, Airplane, which is like kind of outdated humor. It was like 19 just like any of those parody movies I think are so funny, and maybe like they're not they don't hold up as well in like humor today and stuff, but there's definitely some jokes where it's like, okay, you can't make that anymore, and it's not funny. But then there's other jokes where I think it really lands, and I miss those kind of movies. I wish they would
that's make, not really like, a thing anymore.
Like there was the Twilight parody movie called Vampires Suck. Have you ever seen that?
No, but I remember like this premise.
Yeah. And it's like Twilight and New Moon combined. And I think it's so funny. I think those are just the best, and they really need to make them again.
Like all the scary movie ones. Yeah. That's a good idea. Okay, my final question for the getting to know you. Is there an actor you think is overdue for their career-defining role, and what type of movie should they be in?
I think Demi Moore, and how like The Substance is like she's finally getting recognition for that, and I think she should like really tap into that side of her career more. And I love seeing her win awards and get nominated. I think it's really overdue.
I love seeing her dog.
Yeah,
I love her dog.
I know. I would bring my cat to every single red carpet that I would do.
I'm obsessed with that dog. Okay, well, now we're going to get into Almost Famous, which was your movie pick for today. And the premise of Almost Famous: a high school boy in early 1970s is given the chance to write a story for Rolling Stone magazine about an up-and-coming rock band as he accompanies them on their concert tour. I was glad you picked this because this is actually, I don't really rewatch movies that much at all. And this is one of those movies I've actually seen so many times. I love it. I know not everyone loves it, but I really do. What made you pick this film?
I think it's just so fun. And I don't know, I think it's one of those movies where like when I watched it in high school, I was like, doing this is like it sounds like someone wrote about like a dream that they had or like a fantasy of like going around and hanging out with a band in high school and like taking the band to parties and stuff. I think, I don't know. It's just like something that every single...
Really idyllic. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember when you first saw it?
I just remember watching it in high school when I was in my really big like rock phase. And when I watched it and they mentioned Black Sabbath, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to love this movie. I'm not really in like a rock phase anymore, but I think the movie's still like, I love it so much. And I think the music, the soundtrack is like probably the best, one of the best in any movie.
In the movie, there's a scene where the character Russell is like on top of a house and he's about to jump into the pool and he screams, "I'm a golden god."
Yeah.
Do you have any moment in your life you can think back to where you feel like you could have screamed that?
Oh my God.
No?
I don't think so. I mean,
Like
I feel
any like post interview with Letterboxd or like,
okay. I feel
like something where you felt like, oh my God, I'm everything.
Okay, yes. Now that you say that, I feel like when I did the Asteroid City red carpet in New York and Bryan Cranston came up and started complimenting my tattoos.
Aw.
And I was like talking to him about them in the meeting and the meaning behind them, and like some of them are for my mom, and he was like, "Hi Mom," and he was so sweet about it. And afterwards I was like, wow, I think I'm like never gonna live down that moment.
That's cool.
Live down, live up. I don't know what to mean.
I'm notorious for saying expressions wrong, so.
Same.
Lester Bangs, played by Philip Seymour Hoffman, tells the character William, which is like the young boy reporter, to be honest and unmerciful. If you had to be brutally honest about Almost Famous, what's one thing that didn't work for you?
Oh, when William kisses Penny Lane when she's like about to overdose.
Yeah.
And she's like passed out. I was like, that could have been without like sexual assault.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is definitely one thing that I'm like, I don't think that wouldn't fly today. And I think the same thing with like when the high school girls are running on the side and they're in the bus and they're like, high school girls. That's another thing where I'm just like, that wouldn't, but it was a different time.
Yeah.
But still.
A scene that sticks out to me, this isn't a critique, this is just a scene I always think about, is when they're in the bus and Penny Lane, Kate Hudson, is like waving and then turns into a flipping them off, and I love it.
Oh yeah,
just
that's
like
what the
that
high
little,
school girls.
Yeah, I love that.
I know.
Like the wave to a flip off. I'm like, that's so beautiful. I love it.
I think her hand acting in that movie is like very underrated, and just like the way that she moves her hands, I think shows like how free-spirited she is. Like when he's like, I need to go home, and she's like,
yeah,
she's like, you are home. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's so funny. That's not something I thought about, but that's really true.
Yeah. I think like someone's body language can, I mean, obviously that's such a big part of acting, but her hands in that movie is like one of the best parts of her performance, I think.
I was just talking to a prior podcast guest about, I think this was even before the mics turned on and we were just chatting. And he was saying that he watched a movie that had an actor, but that was like newer, or like they don't really act, but they were in this movie, and he was so distracted by their hands because he was like, could just tell by their hands that they weren't an actor. Oh God! And I'm like, oh, that's like such a fear, because like it's
so interesting.
The feeling of being like, what do I do with my hands?
I know.
It's like
I would
something
just, like,
you would
have
never
them
think
behind my
about. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it just shows like how comfortable she was in the role.
If Almost Famous were rebooted today, who's the modern equivalent of Stillwater, and what genre would it be instead of rock, like for today? And it doesn't, my thought with this question too is like, we don't really have many bands anymore. So maybe it's just like a single person, but who is the modern Stillwater?
Maybe like the Strokes.
Okay, yeah.
But like Stillwater was more up and coming, and the Strokes have been around for a while.
Yeah.
But I think that's like a band that encapsulates music today. And just like, I don't know. That's just like the first thing I think of when I think of a band, because I think it's true. Like we don't have a lot of bands anymore.
Yeah, it's not really
like Fontaine's DC maybe.
Yeah, Fontaine's is a good one.
Because they're like,
Oh, that's my pick. I pick Fontaine's.
yeah.
I like that. Penny Lane is iconic for her aesthetic. The fur coat, the round glasses. I think they're like blue glasses. What would a modern Penny Lane wear?
I would hope that. I love that style. I think it's coming back. I mean, it's been back. Like the Penny Lane coat, I think is something I see a lot, especially in New York, because people don't wear coats in LA that much. But yeah, I love that style. I think it's I just love 70s style in
What else do
general.
you think you could see her wearing today?
Like the dresses, the more like flowy dresses and the flowy skirts with boots that people have been wearing. And there's a scene where she wears a shirt like this, and this is like my Penny Lane.
Yeah, your homage. Yeah, I love it.
But yeah, I don't know. I think 70s style is my favorite, and maybe that's why I love the movie so much. It's like just the 70s era in general. I don't know. I feel like fashion today is very, like, things were trending, and that's all that people wore back then was like a certain trend. But now I think people have like found their own fashion. And there's like so many different micro trends and stuff that just kind of like come and go. Whereas back then, I feel like, I mean, I wasn't living in it, so I can't say for sure, but I don't know. I feel like fashion is just like dying right now.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I get that completely. This is one of those movies I like to look back at and get ideas of outfit inspiration. It's fun. Movies like Almost Famous, where you're getting a good gist for music to listen to, clothes to wear. I don't know. It's very like aesthetically inspiring.
Yeah, and so many people have been Penny Lane for Halloween. That's like a big, like such a famous costume for people to do because it's like so easy. You can just find the clothes in your closet.
This is something you kind of said earlier, but do you think William's mom was right to be worried, or was she the ultimate buzzkill?
She was like,
would you say you're a worrywart?
Yes. I'm like the most anxious person I have ever known. I mean, I'm not like inside anyone else's head, but
that's true.
Yeah. I just like, I worry about everything. I worry about like when I leave the house, is there going to be an earthquake and my cat is going to like, the bed's going to fall on my cat, or it's just like stuff like that. I just will never not worry about. And like being a hypochondriac too, and OCD, it's just like the worst mixture of things. It's like constantly.
So you resonate with his mom?
Yes. I thought like they tried to make her seem strict, but that's like my parents growing up were pretty chill. But they would never let me do something like that. Like that was not strict of her at all to let him go off when he was 15, right before graduation, with like tests coming up, to go on the road with some band that like is probably known for doing drugs and like yeah, I don't know how. Yeah, I think Frances McDormand is like the star of that movie.
She's so good.
She's so good. She's so good in everything. But that movie is just like the talk that she had with Russell on the phone is like one of my favorite moments, and one of those moments where like you can be like watching the movie and kind of doze off for a second, and then you're just locked into that scene when it comes on.
I was going to say, speaking of Frances McDormand, like Fargo is one of my favorite movies. And I also really like Nomadland. Like she's just, Raising Arizona. Yeah.
3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri is one of like...
That was also one that I was going to say.
I think it's underrated.
I love that movie.
People hate on it too much. I think she was like, in her Oscar speech that year, also, I rewatch all the time because it's so empowering. And I love when she's like, all the female nominees stand up and it's just like very sparse in the room. And I think that, I don't know, her speech kind of just ignited something in the Academy, maybe.
She's badass. I do love that movie. I'm glad we agree on that.
Yes.
If you could give young William one piece of advice before he heads out on tour, what?
Oh my God. So many things. I guess like force Russell to sit down and have the interview with him, because like it was so frustrating watching him try to do it every single time. He just did it at the worst moments. And I think that was intentional of Russell, sort of. But I'm just like, force him. And if he won't, then force him.
And my final question for our Almost Famous segment. What is the most, quote, look under your bed, it'll set you free advice you've received? And I'm referencing when Zooey Deschanel, his big sister, shows him vinyl from the Beach Boys, Rolling Stone, Joni Mitchell. So do you have a moment in your life that someone gave you kind of like a nugget of information or advice that you it opened your eyes?
Well, first of all, that like older sister, the way that they encapsulated that in Zooey Deschanel, I think was so perfect, because if my older sister ever said to me, like, one day you'll be cool, oh my God, my life would change. Like, all I want in life is my sisters to think that I'm cool, my older sisters. So I love that aspect of the movie. But advice that I had a yoga teacher one time. She said the mantra at the beginning, and she said to think about it throughout the class. And she said, let go or get dragged. And that's something that I think about all the time, of just like, not situations, but my anxiety.
Yeah.
And like
yeah,
how
that fits really perfectly. Yeah.
Yeah. How I overthink, like if I have like a health thing come up and I'm like, oh my God, I have cancer or something. And I'm like, you will get it checked out. And like, if you let go of it right now, then you'll be fine. And like, whatever the outcome is, like, you can't determine or like control the outcome. And if you don't let go of it, then you're just going to get dragged, and like your mind is just going to, I don't know. It's the best advice that I've ever gotten.
I really, really like that. Yeah, I say this a lot to friends and even to myself too, because I can be very like on a loop with like cyclical thoughts if I'm like stressed or anxious, and I'm just like, the same thought is over and over and over again, and I'm like, how do I get out of the loop? And I always am trying to remember like I have the control to like change my current mood, because none of my actions right now are going to change anything.
Yep.
And you're in like that waiting period, so you might as well just like be in a better mood and like end the cycle of thoughts.
Yeah.
You know?
I think my previous thinking was like, I want to worry about things and like expect bad things, because then I won't be let down. But I think I've like tried to turn that around recently and be like, well, things have been happening. Good things have been happening. And if I keep thinking that way, then I'm just going to like, I don't know. It just takes up so much space in my brain that I could be doing like creative, cool things with my time.
Also, like, my little nugget of advice is like, I'm like definitely a very optimistic person, but I've always felt like everything I get in life, I deserve. And I think I feel like so much good comes my way because I think it should, and it like makes me happier, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just like a perspective flip that I've like taught myself, I guess. And it really changes everything.
Yeah.
Like completely.
Having imposter syndrome in this industry is just like, will eat you alive. And just like me thinking I don't deserve any of this. But yeah.
But look how far you've come.
I know. It's like my dream job, and
so
I mean,
sick.
like,
It's an incredible spot to be in.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to play a little game. I'm going to list different characters from different films, and you're going to tell me what you think one of the movies on their top 4 would be.
Okay.
Sophie from Mamma Mia.
We like Moulin Rouge.
Okay.
When Harry Met Sally.
I could see her. Yeah, 'cause she's a lover.
Yeah. I think she's like, wears her heart on her sleeve.
Penny Lane from Almost Famous.
Or I feel like she would have Daisy Jones in there.
I think that she would watch The Last Waltz, which is a documentary directed by Martin Scorsese. Have you ever seen it?
I have it on DVD. I haven't seen it, though.
You should watch it. It's incredible. It's the band that are called The Band.
Yeah,
it was
love them.
Yeah, it was their last show of their last final tour, and it basically has cameos from like every artist you could think of.
Yeah.
And I used to live in San Francisco, and it was in San Francisco in 1978, and then Martin Scorsese randomly directed it.
Yeah,
which is
I love
cool.
that. I have that on DVD, but yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, well, that is what I think that Penny
that's a good one
would have.
I do think Daisy Jones too, but
yeah.
Can I say one was made after?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Tashi from Challengers.
Oh my God, probably like Match Point or something.
Yeah. Margot from the Royal Tenenbaums.
She's such like an interesting character to me. I feel like I couldn't read her very well.
I could see her.
Like Titanic.
Okay. Ellen from Nosferatu.
I want to do her justice and I want to just like throw a random one out there. I loved Nosferatu.
I feel like she'd like Possession.
Yes. Or Twilight.
Okay, yeah. I love that.
I hope she would.
Celine from Before Sunrise.
I feel like she really would like this movie by Chantal Akerman, and I always compare it to Before Sunrise, just like in the conversations that they have, but it's called Portrait of a Young Girl in Brussels at the end of the 60s, or like maybe I flipped the title. But yeah, it's like a 65-minute movie of this girl just like walking and having conversations, and I think it's really, like, I always recommend it to people who like Before Sunrise.
Oh yeah, Edward Cullen from Twilight.
Oh, Young Frankenstein.
Yeah.
I think that would be, because it's like funny.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think that would be a good one that he would
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then our last little segment for this podcast episode, we're going to do Guess the Letterboxd review. I'm going to say a review, and it's going to be from like a movie that came out semi-recently.
Okay, I'm
and
excited.
you have to guess what movie they're talking about.
Okay. I need to catch up on my most recent movies that have come out, but I feel like I'll know them.
Maybe. I've played this before and people don't get what movie I'm mentioning, so we'll see. Okay, quote. Terminator, but for the girls and the gays. This movie just came out, like, very recently.
Companion?
Yeah, this made me want to light a cigarette and stare at a wall for a few hours. 5 stars. I'd focus on the wall aspect.
The Brutalist?
Yeah. This one is Oscar nominated and streaming right now. Man, fuck them dogs. It's animated.
Flow.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God, I loved Flow. It was so stressful.
And my last one, 12 Angry Men for Catholic People.
Conclave?
Yeah. Good job.
I did pretty good at that.
Yeah, you did. I'm going to close this out with one final question. If you were to recommend a movie for the listeners that you think they should definitely see, what comes to mind?
Creep 2.
Yeah?
Yes.
And
I think it's like one of the most brilliant, like it was all, what's the word? Improv. Mostly improv. And I think it's just like, I loved Creep, but Creep 2, I watched it, and then the very next day I watched it again. I think it's so brilliant, and yeah, I think just like the Creep series is just amazing, and like the silliest horror, and silly horror is my favorite genre, I think.
Sick.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on. I love talking about movies with you and getting to know you through your
Thanks for
film
having me.
taste. For those listening, they can find you on, do you want to share your Letterboxd or your Instagram?
Yeah, Letterboxd and Instagram are at Flynn Slicker, my name.
Amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, you have the kind of name no one else is going to have it.
Yeah, no, I don't have a problem with like my handle
Usernames? Oh, that's nice.
like John Smith or something.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for coming on, Flynn. And now it's time to get lost.
Good evening.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave us 5 stars on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. To stay in touch, follow our Instagram page at It's Intermission Time and share with your friends. As always, Intermission is produced by Jazeel Chu and Olivia Dean, and of course, hosted by yours truly, Megan Braun. This episode is brought to you by The Synagogue.